entire reason the government is not open right now is because Democrats refuse to be complicit in having millions of Americans, including 100,000 in Kentucky, your home state, if I'm remembering correctly, Scott, that rely on ACA, that would see their premiums rise several
which you can deal with separately. It doesn't have to be, those two things do not go together.
But the way that they're doing this right now, they're combining both.
Voting to support the budget still doesn't, if you keeping it closed doesn't fix the ACA. The ACA needs to be reformed. Healthcare needs to be reformed. This is a way bigger question.
You guys failed at that last time. The whole thing was repeal and replace. You had a trifecta. You tried this. You failed.
That's not true. They're still in the concept of a plan stage.
No, in terms of
they've been in the concept stage since 2000.
David, that was a CNN panel with David Hogg where they were discussing the Trump administration's plan to cut SNAP benefits for millions of Americans. There's an update on that we'll get to, and the conversation turned to the ACA. The panelist there was referring back to one of the many ridiculous things that Donald Trump has said when he joked that the Republicans have concepts of plans for something that will eventually replace the ACA. And David has been pretty busy lately. I know he was just here in Houston actually canvassing for Christian Menefee, who was a congressional candidate. Christian actually won the race last night, but not by enough, so it looks like we're going to get a runoff between him and Amanda Edwards. I don't live in the 18th district, but I love Christian Menefee. He is one to watch on the national level, I'll say it right now, regardless of how this race goes. That said, if Amanda Edwards gets into Congress, she's no joke either. It was a crowded field, and within that field, there were several Democratic candidates who I would have felt really good about winning the seat. Christian was and is my first choice, but when I say that red state Dems have to be better, stronger, quicker, I'm not kidding. They can't afford to play around here, and they don't. But back to David Hogg, he also spent all of Election Day, it seems, between media appearances, canvassing for Zohran Mamdani in New York City. I'm sure I don't need to tell any of you how that race went. I watched his acceptance speech this morning, and it was like a really good feeling and a really good moment, and frankly, we don't get enough of those these days. So even if it's cringe or whatever, y'all just enjoy this moment, not just for New Yorkers, but for all of us and for everything his victory represents. And then buckle up, because Zohran has a long, hard road ahead of him. You better believe that they're going to try and hinder his every move as he attempts to move forward with his agenda, but hopefully he's got some really strong allies in government that will have his back, along with the support of his constituents. So let's talk about SNAP. Trump posted to Truth Social about SNAP benefits Tuesday, saying SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars many-fold during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office due to the fact that they were haphazardly handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do, and not before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So according to Trump, the Democrats have been given the impossible choice of sacrificing healthcare benefits for the American people or risking food scarcity across the country. It's not much of a choice, but as you saw in that CNN clip, Republicans really want to frame it as one. They're still attempting to blame the shutdown on the Democrats because, again, the Democrats are unwilling to concede when it comes to the healthcare of millions of Americans. And Trump seems to know this. Last night, as the election results were coming in, as he watched Republicans lose across the country, he wrote on Truth Social, "Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, according to pollsters." So according to pollsters, he said, so perhaps that implies that he doesn't necessarily believe that that's why Republicans lost so badly last night, but it does show that he is aware on some level that the Republicans are losing the optics game when it comes to the shutdown. Seriously, who shuts down a government in the middle of an election? I know it's not the midterms, but still. And then on top of shutting down the government and everything that implies and entails, Trump was adamant that he would cut SNAP benefits for roughly 42 million Americans across the country, something he also tried incredibly to pin on the Democrats. Well, SNAP benefits are coming back, sort of, and Trump is certainly not happy about it. He didn't want to bring them back because he doesn't care if people starve. In fact, it seems he would prefer that they did. But apart from the tedium of presiding over a nation, he has been very busy throwing Great Gatsby / roaring 20s themed parties, be more tone deaf, I dare you, building a bunker beneath the White House, or overseeing tacky bathroom renovations. He's having a great time. This iteration of SNAP, however, will be nothing like what it once was. The money for these SNAP benefits will be paid out from a contingency fund from the Agriculture Department. However, before, $8 billion were paid out every month. Now, only $4.65 billion will be paid out, just over half of the previous amount. And yes, there is a catch. In a court filing, officials said depleting that fund means no funds will remain for new SNAP applicants certified in November, disaster assistance, or as a cushion against the potential catastrophic consequences of shutting down SNAP entirely. The Trump administration declined to tap any additional funds for SNAP, saying that could take money away from other child nutrition programs like school lunch and breakfast programs. All of this is even happening in the first place because 2 federal judges ruled that Trump cutting SNAP was unlawful, so he would have to figure out a way to reinstate the benefits. They said that Congress provided more than $5 billion in emergency funds for exactly this kind of situation, and they rejected the Trump administration's argument that it could not legally use that money to keep SNAP going. It not only can use the money, but must, the judges said. And unfortunately, even though SNAP has been partially reinstated, delays are expected. The government said Monday that state agencies will have to recode their eligibility systems to adjust for the reduced benefits, and it is unclear how quickly state systems will be able to do so. It warned that in some states, these system changes will take anywhere from a few weeks to up to several months. No word on what these people are supposed to do for the next several months. So states and just people are trying to figure out ways to fill in the gaping holes that the Trump administration has blown through our social infrastructure. Without federal funding, states are doing what they can to support their residents, but the Trump administration has said that they will not be at any point reimbursing states for any payouts that they make. Food banks and pantries are also kicking into high gear, but there's only so much they can do to support the population that needs the support. And speaking of the population, roughly 1 in 8 Americans receive SNAP benefits, which, by the way, is only about $187 a month per person. And of those recipients, nearly 39% are children under the age of 18. So those kids don't really have the option to just go get a job like critics of SNAP and other social programs love to say. Many SNAP recipients actually do work full-time at, multinational corporations like Walmart, who just refuse to pay their workers livable wages, even though they can most certainly afford to do so. And many of them are disabled. Sure, maybe there are a few welfare queens, as they like to call them, in the system, but they are certainly not the majority. But you have to wonder if this wasn't the plan all along. From the very beginning, Trump came out criticizing social programs. He keeps trying to convince us that all we want is actually for the states to have more power, even though it's not actually what we have asked for. They want to basically make the federal government completely without obligation to its people, but they still want to collect our tax dollars for doing little else for us besides anything military related. And even that, one could argue, is not for us. It's less America first and much more focused on foreign policy and international status, even though they will tell us that it's all defense. Actually, you know what? They're not even trying to say that anymore, because isn't it now the Department of War? All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.